Jasper County senior citizens are now eligible for a property tax credit. I'm Lisa Oligas, and you're watching Newsmakers. In this edition, we learn about the application process to lock in on a property tax rate for your home as a state law is being implemented in Jasper County. We'll also learn how the law is already working to help save senior tax dollars in Greene County, Missouri. We begin, though, with the Jasper County Collector, Steve McIntosh, who is working to share the rules of the program with our community. Welcome, Steve, and thanks for coming to share this information.
Thank you, Lisa. My pleasure to be here. If there is a pleasure in trying to explain something that's complicated.
Tax law is confusing and complicated. It sure is. We often hear that senior citizens are on fixed income, so rising property taxes can put a strain on budgets. This law that went into effect August 28, 2024 should be a help. However, it requires a county to take action through an ordinance or a vote. So, Steve, tell us what happened in Jasper County and when was this law passed and how long did it take to come around?
A little bit of quick history. In 2023, there was a bill passed in the Missouri Senate, went to the Missouri House, they passed it. That particular bill had two components to it. One was it exempted Social Security payments for Missouri income tax. Second component was it gave seniors a real estate property tax credit. The problem is there was no definitions on how you do that, which meant you didn't know what to do.
It needed a fix.
The governor signed that bill because of the exempting Social Security taxes or payments from Missouri income tax.
Okay.
As he told me, I got to sign it because of that, but the rest of it's a mess. You got to get a fix to it.
Okay.
As part of that fix, the Missouri Association of Counties put together a task force. And the chairman of that will be following me on this, Alan Iseth. And I was involved with a committee I'm on, the Missouri Association of Counties. And together there were quite a few fixes suggested to the Missouri legislature, not all of which were done.
Yeah.
But that bill came out of the Missouri Senate to the Missouri House this year and went into effect August 28th of 2024, which enabled the Jasper County Commission to try to move forward. They held tight until then. The law that was originally passed and still there is that it's an individual county by county basis. The county commission can pass an ordinance to implement it, or there can be a citizen's petition. Most counties are doing the ordinance with the county commission. October 1st of 2024, our commission passed an ordinance to implement this, and my office was tasked with carrying out the implementation.
Okay. So this means then, can the rules be different in every county because every county passes an ordinance?
To a certain degree, they can be. There's the new law gives the commission some latitude in how they define things. But more importantly, there's different ways to interpret what is there. That's why the fixes we propose have been nice if all of them have been done. So you narrow that window of interpretation. And perhaps this year there'll be some more fixes to narrow it down so all counties are the same. But that's not going to be the case right now.
Yeah, and there's different applying kind of deadlines. So Newton County is discussing an ordinance as well currently right now. Is it important for residents to check then with their specific county as to application deadlines, start dates, et cetera?
Yes, deadlines can be different. I'm not sure what Greene County's deadlines are. You'll find that out in a little bit, but I know Christian County has a June 30 deadline. They're starting the middle of February to take applications.
And Jasper County, your current window?
We're going to be taking applications towards the end of January. January 21st, they'll go in the mail to those who submitted back to us a form that we put in their tax bill. Little form that said, if you're 62 or older and you live in your homestead, you may be eligible. Send this in and we'll send you an application. My staff are currently busy folding and stuffing about 10,000 applications to go out January 21st. Okay. And our cutoff is May 31st. That's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works.
All right, so there are two things that have been touted or described in this: a homestead property tax credit and then a freeze on the property tax rate. So let's talk first, though, about the tax rate. Firstly, what does homestead mean?
Homestead means where your principal residence is and how really each county assessor defines what the homestead is. In other words, if you've got a 120-acre farm, it's not all going to qualify. It's going to be the house and maybe 5 acres, house and 2 acres. again, room for interpretation by county by county. Generally speaking, we think it should be a 5-acre piece, but that's up to the assessors. It's however they classify it.
What your home is, and you're living in the home.
And the credit involves, the homestead is what you get the credit on. It's all the same credit, really.
Right.
But you have to, it has to be your principal residence, and you have to own it, or it can be in trust. If the trust is worded correctly, you get the benefit then too.
So you can still be paying on your home. You can have a mortgage.
That's exactly right.
It doesn't have to be paid off.
Yeah, whether you have a mortgage or not makes no difference.
Okay.
Just like it does it now, there's property taxes that have to be paid. If you got a mortgage, it's through an escrow. If not, it's you write the check. But any event, the taxes have to be paid. That's the same going forward.
How do they figure the amount you're credited? And does this apply also to renters?
No.
No. Okay.
You have to own the property, and we'll get into that in just a minute.
Okay.
You have to own the property, and the way it increases going forward is by the assessor will do an assessed valuation, as they always do.
Right.
And they'll apply actually the county clerk applies the individual levies to that, comes up with the dollar amount of taxes owed on the real estate. By the way, this does not apply to personal property whatsoever. It's all real estate.
Yes, okay.
But the process will be they'll come up with a dollar amount for 2025 that would be your tax amount. We simply subtract the frozen amount in 2024 if you qualify from the 25, and the difference is the credit. That's simple.
So right
you pay
now,
the 24 amount.
Right now, 2024 is the marked year as long as you have applied.
It's the initial credit year.
Okay. For whenever, so somebody has to apply, it will be their initial credit year, the first time they apply. All right. So then let's talk about, do they have to apply every year, or is it one and done?
The law says you have to provide evidence.
Okay.
Well, and things change it over time.
Okay.
You know, mom could gift the house to her kids or whatever. And so you have to apply every year. There's no way around it. We scratched our heads and thought about, talked to more than one legal counsel about it. There's no way around it.
Okay. So who's eligible? You mentioned seniors and you mentioned the age of 62. But, you know, some people, I turn 62 after your deadline, or my wife isn't 62, but I am. Are those people all still okay?
If one person in the household and the name is on the deed or 62 during the application period, then you're good to go.
Okay. And how does the Homestead Act work then? How will a senior tax liability be? I mean, how long can it be frozen at a certain rate? And, you know, if your house, if you do a renovation, does it change?
If you do a renovation, it will change.
Okay.
If you do a significant addition, it changes, obviously.
Okay.
But there's no provision in the law to say we're done freezing it at the initial credit year. There's no provision there. So it can go on, if you live long enough, for 40 years. I don't see that happening, but it could.
Okay. So renovations would make a difference. Most property appreciates or increases in value when we think of property. But what if, for some reason, there was a decrease in your property's
valuation? Then you'd
valuation?
reset the amount to the lower level.
It does reset. Okay, so that would be kind of a relief for some.
Yeah, and it's also not a retroactive issue either. If you turned 62 10 years ago, we're not going to go back 10 years. It doesn't work that way. There was some ambiguity in that in the initial bill. The second bill said, no, it's from this date going forward.
Okay, so let's also talk about then the process. What is the process for getting this application? What are the steps? What are some of the things that they're going to have to document? Do you have to have a deed? Do they have to give you the deed?
Okay, first of all, the application in Jasper County is a two-page application, and you answer certain questions. And, you know, does a parcel include your residence, your homestead? Is the current homestead assessment under appeal? These are yes or no's. Are taxes on this property paid through the current tax year? That's significant. Then the required documents is proof of residency, voter registration card, a driver's license, other perhaps, proof of ownership, a copy of a recorded deed with the recorder's page and stamp on it. Now, it doesn't have to be a certified copy, but it's got to be a copy with that recorder's stamp on it, and it shows proof of ownership. Or equitable interest, that gets into a trust situation.
So they have to submit these documents, or is it easier to just bring them to your office and say?
They're going to have to come to my office in Carthage. Believe me,
The easiest way.
I've tried every way I can think of to avoid that, but I can't figure out how to do it and still avoid I gave it to these people and they lost it, and no. I've got dedicated staff in Carthage who will deal with this. We'll make copies. We'll have a folder on every taxpayer who comes in an application, shows their proof. We'll have a copy that if it's a driver's license, if it's a birth certificate, whatever they document their age with, we'll have copies of that. There's a not a court case, a ruling by the Missouri Auditor's Office, State Auditor's Office, within the last month or two, criticizing the Missouri Tax Commission for not keeping evidence of certain things regarding the other credit program we talked about earlier. So we're going to have to keep it. There's no way around it. I don't like that, but we're going to have to.
So could they mail it in? But if they mail it in, does it have to be notarized?
Nope, I want them to bring it in.
You want them to bring it in.
They have to bring it in. They have to bring it in. It's the only way we can truly document what we're doing. And then, if they meet the criteria, I will send a recommendation to the county commission. They will approve or disapprove. It's up to them. They're the final signers on this. It's very significant. And then you'll be notified with a letter, you qualified, or nope, you didn't meet it, here's why. And you'll be given a chance to cure that issue. Maybe the trust documents aren't complete or something like that.
So in any cases, I mean, they really need to get the list of what they need to bring with them.
Which is right, it's on the application.
And so they fill out that application, and then they're going to gather all those documents, bring them to you.
That's right. Now then, we're going to put the application online.
Okay.
JasperCountyCollector.com. It'll be on there the end of January, or the last week in January. It'll be on there. You can download it, see what you need, put it together, and bring it to us. It's got to be in Carthage, too. I'm sorry. I wish I could do it both offices, but that's just not going to work.
So
and everything I'm doing, I've bounced off of legal counsel, too, by the way. I'm trying to do this as legally as we can and as easy as we can. One of the things that we're not doing is asking the taxpayer to notarize their signature on the application. Some counties are doing that. We're not.
Okay.
But you're also, when you sign it, you're stating that you could be under penalties of perjury if you lie on it and that kind of stuff.
So this first time they come to your office, are they going to every year come to your office to renew this?
As we go down the road, we'll have a renewal app, which will be different than the initial year app.
Okay.
It's basically going to say, have you done this before? Did you qualify? And we haven't worked the legalities of that out yet, but I know where we're headed. And is anything changed? If you check no, then fine, we're good to go. Send it in. If something has changed, then we got to know what it is.
All right. So soon you're going to have information on the how-to on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And if someone has questions on this application, say they've gotten it, can they call you?
Yes, they can call my office.
And so the Jasper County Collector's Office. Is there a specific extension?
I have multiple phone lines in there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk to the County Collector of Greene County, where the tax credits are already being processed. But first, here's more information on how to get your application for the senior tax credit. Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are discussing Missouri's new senior tax credit program. It requires each county to determine if it will implement the tax credit. Newton County is currently discussing an ordinance to allow for it. Jasper County has it in place and is now accepting applications at the end of January. And Greene County, Missouri acted swiftly and is already set up to offer the credit. To talk about how it's working there, we are joined by Greene County Collector Alan Isett. Thank you for making the trip here to explain this somewhat complicated process. So you have a nice section on your website that has frequently asked questions for residents. Was it helpful that your county moved swiftly for this tax credit?
Well, I think it's helpful for the other counties versus they're not on the leading edge, which can be the bleeding edge. We had a little bit of a bumpy startup, but we have learned a lot in the process in 2024 and have implemented a number of changes in 2025 for the current year.
All right. So there's an application period listed on your website from January to June.
Yes.
Is it the same for all counties or not necessarily?
No, one of the interesting things about the bill is there's certain parameters that taxpayers have to meet, for example, 62 years of age in every county. But there's a lot of flexibility. For example, the time frame under which to accept applications. The actual application itself can vary from county to county, although we try to work with each other so we're not reinventing the wheel ourselves. But there are some varieties and variables between counties.
Okay. The law became effective August 28th of 2024. Did you have people apply right away, call right away?
Actually, what Greene County Commission did, the commission passed it, which is one of the two options, August the 28th of 2023. So we began accepting applications in the March timeframe, 2024. Greene County went through September 30th, so we had about a 6-month window to apply, and we had a significant number of interest, as you can imagine.
How many?
We had over 15,000 applications.
Wow.
I had guessed 10,000, so I only missed it by 50%. So
that's amazing. What are some of the things that can be stumbling blocks for people when applying?
One is there is some misconception. Last year was I'll say really bad. This year is better. Some people think it applies to their personal property tax, which it does not. This is real estate tax only. Some people think I will no longer pay real estate tax if I'm approved. That is not true.
Okay.
You will pay real estate tax forever. Some think if I'm old enough, then it applies to all my properties. So if I have a home in Greene County and a home at the lake, I'll just apply for both. Again, it's primary residence, and you have one primary residence. So there's some general misunderstanding as people are moving up the learning curve about what does qualify. So we've worked with taxpayers. We try to go out of our way to help inform and educate taxpayers on the process, what they should expect. And I'll use, for example, 2024 was the initial credit year, or what I call the base year.
Right.
Some people's taxes went up from 23 to 24 by $20-30. We got calls, emails, why my taxes go up? Because 2024 was the initial credit year or the base year. That is the benchmark against which your taxes, you'll never pay more in taxes. Your taxes will go up, but you'll receive a credit to take you back to that initial year. And for those 15,000 people, it's 2024 taxes.
Okay, because they've applied.
They've applied and been approved. That is correct.
So you probably got more questions about this since your site has been up. Let's go over some of the frequently asked questions.
Okay.
And so one of people ask, are copies okay when it comes to these documents, like the deed to a home? Can it be a copy or does it have to be an original?
No, copies are fine. And for example, a change that we made in Greene County last year, the expectation was taxpayers had to bring in the form, if they're doing it public or in person, the form copy or their ID, like usually driver's license, passport, bring in a copy of their deed. If it's a trust, we need the copy of the trust. So we tried to make it easier for the taxpayers. We actually have the ability to look up their deed online. So they no longer need to bring that paperwork. And it was interesting, a lot of people have no idea where their deed is.
Right.
So we do that. In Greene County, what we need is a government-issued ID for proof of age, and if their home is in a trust, we need a copy of the trust document. We don't need the entire document. We just need to be able to prove ownership through the trust document. Everything else we will look up online.
The key is proving ownership.
Ownership is key.
Now, can all counties look it up online, or I mean, Jasper County might say, no, you better bring that deed.
There is a learning curve for us. We work with the recorders actually in the historic courthouse. They're just one hall over. And so we work with the recorder's office to get access to their database. Now, the public cannot get access to the database. So either they have a copy at home, bring it in, or last year, a lot of people go to the recorder's office before coming to the collector's office to get a copy of that deed. So this year, again, we're trying to streamline the process, make it easier for taxpayers.
Should someone mail in their documents, or truly is it better to come and do this all in person?
In some cases, I like to do it in person. That way we can have this conversation, you and I, and there's no miscommunication, no misunderstanding. For the people who apply initially, I would suggest coming in person to the historic courthouse, but by email is certainly an option. And some people aren't email literate, so to speak,
Right.
so that face-to-face works.
Yeah, I mean, attaching documents could be difficult, and you originally
can be.
required notarizing documents?
Yes, if you're doing it in person, we obviously have your ID, well, this is you, but if not, we need that notarization with that signature so we have something to view or look at in the future, because we have to do our due diligence to verify that you still own your home.
Yeah, and that could be difficult to get the notarization, so it might
Yes.
be easier just to go in person.
Yes.
Can you apply if you've just built a home?
Yes, you can. Now that's an interesting process because that initial year, the value is set relatively low because you only have partial occupancy, and the next year is when that would really be reset because you occupy your home for the full year.
So it's based on how long you've occupied the home.
Well, that's one of those unusual situations that occurs, and there are a couple of other interesting things. But generally, anyone can apply if they're 62 during the calendar year. In Greene County, we have a June 30th cutoff. So if you turn 62, if you're a single resident or multiple residents in the home, if you turn 62 in the calendar year, we will accept your application.
So, because you say, oh, I turned 62, but it was
I missed the deadline.
July 1st or
Right.
something.
And that was something we talked about last year. How do we handle this? Obviously, people, if they miss it by 1 day or more, they'll be unhappy.
Right.
So again, this is the county by county. Other
Yeah.
counties may not do this, that we say, if you turn 62 in the calendar year, feel free to apply. You have met that qualification.
Okay. So, and they need to apply every year.
We're working through the reapplication process. They don't need to fill out the entire application. What we're really asking are, do you still own the home? Is this still your primary residence?
Right.
And have you made any significant changes, built a garage, a pool, a deck, whereby the assessed value of the home would go up and we would need to apply that incremental tax for that significant improvement.
So people might be confused because county taxes sometimes have it divided for ambulance district, schools. This credit applies, it doesn't segment it, it's for all of your real estate.
Right. That was one of the points of clarification we asked the legislature to fix. In some people's opinion, it just applied to the county tax only, not the other taxing political subdivisions, which is where most of your taxes go.
Right.
So that was clarified through the legislature that what is frozen is your entire tax bill. So if you have 12 taxing jurisdictions, that tax, for the most part, is going to be frozen.
Okay, that's great. So you do still have to pay. You're not just not paying taxes. You still have
Yes,
to
you
pay
do.
some real estate taxes, but it's going to freeze it.
Correct.
At the 2024 level if you apply for the 2024 year.
For Greene County, if you apply in 2024, and as you probably know, Missouri, every odd year, assessors reassess. So for 2025, the Greene County assessor will reassess like every other assessor, and I'm guessing your assessed value will go up, which means your taxes due will go up. So for someone who applied in 24, let's say their bill is $200 more for 2025, they won't pay that increment 200. That's the credit, so to speak. They'll pay that 2024 bill again, but for a couple of unusual situations.
So there's no set amount for this credit.
No.
It's all based on the difference between a newly assessed year.
That is correct. And some people, another misconception, I think, some people expect this huge windfall. No, you will get a windfall, but it's not going to be huge. But if you live in your home for 10, 20 years, 30 years or more, you'll notice that credit growing every year. But that initial credit for 2025, it's not going to be too impressive. No.
But if you're on a fixed income, you don't want that rate to go up.
That is correct. That's the good news.
So one of the things that was a question on anything is, how do I find my real estate account number? Is there one, and where do we look for this? Because most people probably have no idea we even have an account number.
That is true. In Greene County, if you go to countycollector.com, really simple, just countycollector.com, in the upper left-hand corner of the website, there's a green button that says Statements and Receipts. If you click on that button, it opens up a search box, and you can search by your name or a tax ID, but if you don't know it, you search by name or your street address, and the system will pull up the various names. So if your name is Smith or Johnson, you'll probably have quite a few. If your name's Isaac like mine, you don't have to search too far. It's easy to find.
Am I approved when I submit my application? How do I find out if I'm approved, and how long should we expect this process to take when we send in that application?
That is a very popular question. Trust me. Last year, since we were moving up the learning curve, there were some delays which were just too long. This year, our intent, as I mentioned, we're trying to streamline the process. So if someone comes in and applies in person and they have all the required documentation, we will approve you on the site. In fact, we'll give you a copy of your application showing approved.
So going into the office might be worth the trip.
There are some advantages to doing that. I will agree.
Less worry. So if you have two people in a home, right? So
Right.
my husband and I,
Husband and wife.
he's already 62. I'm not there yet, but we'll be soon.
Right.
We can still get it for our
Yes.
homestead?
And one of the things, again, in Greene County, and I keep reminding folks, it's different from
For
county
every
to county.
Okay.
Initially, the application had one name, but we had the situation, well, what about husband and wife? What do we do if both are 62? So the current application has two names. The other question that came up is, well, what if one of the spouse, what I call the trailing spouse, the younger spouse, isn't 62? And the older spouse passes away before the younger spouse gets to 60, or at that time. Well, technically, that younger spouse never applied because they were never eligible. So
Okay.
what we decided to do in Greene County is that husband and wife, even if one of the two spouses is not old enough, go ahead and apply, and you will probably age in.
Into it. Okay.
So you don't have to come back and apply initially. So that seems to be a good workaround for that situation.
So what if taxes oddly go down? Does it reset at a lower rate, and then if they go back up, do you hold at the lower rate? How does that work?
Good question. There were two bills passed. Senate Bill 190 was the initial bill in 23, which we had some questions. Senate Bill 756 in last year, 2024. That situation was actually addressed so that if for some reason your tax bill actually drops, I used, let's say 1,000, it drops to 900, your real estate tax bill will be frozen at the $900 level going forward.
Awesome.
So that's the good news.
Could be lower. All right. So let's remind some of the citizens of how they should contact and what they should do. Really, you're saying the best thing is go to your collector's office, give them a call first,
Right.
get the application, gather your documents.
Right.
What kinds of things should they bring? Let's remind them.
They should bring government-issued ID for proof of age, and if it's in a trust, usually trust documents aren't filed with the recorder, so they need to bring the trust documents. We don't need necessarily the entire package. We're looking for, usually the cover page gives us all the information we need, but please bring your trust documents. So those two. In Greene County, we have a dedicated email address and a dedicated phone line. If people have questions, please reach out to us and ask those questions. We're happy to help.
And in some counties, you may have to bring the deed to your home, proof of the residency.
Right.
All right, Alan, I said thank you for sharing so much information.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
As a footnote, as Steve mentioned earlier, Social Security retirement benefits will be tax-free for recipients 62 or older starting in 2024. Previously, the state taxed a portion of Social Security benefits. Presently, Social Security recipients pay taxes only if their income is over $85,000 annually, $100,000 or more for couples filing jointly. That is being phased out. The income tax relief is available to all seniors. Missouri is one of 11 states that currently taxes Social Security benefits and is changing that. Thanks to our guests for explaining the senior tax credit. If you have questions, call your county collector's office. I'm Lisa Allegas. Thank you for watching.